The Great Switch. How the American people were tricked out of their creditor position. Listen up, y'all. What if I told you a story that would help you understand how you were tricked out your creditor position? Well, buckle up, 'cause I'm breaking it down right now, so listen up. Once upon a time, in the land of the free, the people held true power. Every man, woman, and child born on American soil was a sovereign being, with inherent rights and wealth tied to their existence. Their birthright was backed by the gold and silver standard, a system where money had real, tangible value. They were the creditors, and the government served them. But in the shadows, a plan was forming, one that would flip this power dynamic on its head. It was 1933, in the midst of the Great Depression, when President Franklin D. Roosevelt made a historic move that would change everything. On the surface,
he announced that America was in crisis and that in order to save the country, the government needed to take drastic action. With a stroke of a pen, House Joint Resolution 192 was passed, effectively outlawing private ownership of gold. The people, once the creditors of the nation, were forced to turn in their gold to the Federal Reserve in exchange for paper currency, debt notes. But this was only the beginning of the deception, the secret meeting that changed everything. Most Americans have no idea
that their financial sovereignty was stripped away in a secret meeting, one that took place behind closed doors while the rest of Congress was on recess. It was the winter break of exact year. I'm still researching the exact year. My research is giving me that it happened between the 1960s to 1970s, and while most government officials were away, a group of 7 powerful individuals gathered in the state of Georgia and took matters into their own hands. These men, representing elite financial and political interests, made a decision that would forever alter the course of the American financial system. Without the knowledge or approval of the full Congress, they enacted a fundamental change: the transformation of American citizens from sovereign individuals into financial assets. At the same time, another event was unfolding that the people were never told about. Instead of recognizing Americans as living, breathing, sovereign beings, every citizen was quietly reclassified as a corporate entity. This was done through the birth certificate system, where each newborn was registered and assigned a QSIP number. That number was then used to create a trust account in their name, backed by the labor and potential earnings of every citizen. These accounts, your wealth, were then collateralized and traded on the global stock market without your knowledge. But why wasn't this corrected when the rest of Congress returned from their break? Were they truly unaware, or was this carefully orchestrated from the beginning? Did they allow it to happen as part of a greater plan to shift power away from the people? The truth is, by the time the full government reconvened, the mechanisms were already in place. The system had been implemented without a public vote, without oversight, and without consent. What was done in secrecy had already become law. And so, without realizing it, Americans went from creditors to debtors, from sovereign beings to financial instruments, all while believing they were free. So, what does this mean for you? And more importantly, how can you reclaim your rightful status? Stay tuned, because in my next breakdown, I'll be exposing the steps people are taking right now to undo this deception and take back what was stolen. The switch was complete. Stolen. The switch was complete. The American people were no longer creditors. They had unknowingly been turned into debtors, mere financial instruments in a rigged system. Every loan, mortgage, and financial transaction was tied to this deception. Instead of operating in their rightful position as the ones to whom the government owed a debt, they were tricked into believing they owed a debt to the system. This fraudulent setup has continued for decades, with each generation unknowingly being born into a web of financial enslavement. The bonds that were once meant to empower and enrich the people were instead used against them, funneling wealth and power into the hands of private banking institutions and the elite. But now, the truth is coming to light. The people are waking up. They are learning that their birthright was stolen, that their labor has been used as collateral, and that the financial system they have been enslaved to was never designed for their benefit. The question now is, what will they do with this knowledge? Hell, ask yourself, what am I going to do with this knowledge? Or, better yet, We all were tricked out of our wealth and our children. They came for our children, y'all. We have to do something. Make sure you share and like the video. Don't just have me doing all this research and not use it. Until next time.